हमारे सभी दर्शकों को नमस्कार। स्वागत है एक और फिनिटी के इन्वेस्टोलॉजी एनएफओ एडिशन में। आज का एडिशन भी पिछले एडिशंस की तरह स्पेशल होगा क्योंकि आज हमारे साथ एक रिटर्निंग एएमसी है, रिटर्निंग गेस्ट नहीं बट रिटर्निंग एएमसी। तो गेस्ट के पास जाने से पहले छोटी सी दो तीन सूचनाएं हैं। नया एंड्रॉयड ऐप और आईओएस ऐप जो है अपडेट हमारा लॉन्च हो गया है। ऐप अपडेट करने के लिए यूट्यूब वीडियो के नीचे वाले लिंक में जरूर दबाएं। फिनिटी के यूट्यूब चैनल को जरूर सब्सक्राइब करें क्योंकि हर गुरुवार थर्सडे बिटवीन 4 एंड 6 पीएम हमारा ये इन्वेस्टोलॉजी चलता रहेगा। पिछले हफ्ते हमारा बजट स्पेशल जो था वो बुधवार को आया था, बट इस हफ्ते से रेगुलर प्रोग्रामिंग वापस शुरू हो रहा है। तो इसी के साथ आज बढ़ते हैं एक स्पेशल से सेशन की तरफ। इफ यू आर इन द न्यूज, आपको सबको अवेयर रहेगा कि थोड़ी सी जो है सेबी ने इंटरनेशनल फंड्स के ऊपर थोड़ी सी रोक लगा के रखी। ये टेम्पररी है, बट इसी सॉर्ट ऑफ वेरी इंटरेस्टिंग एटमॉस्फेयर में आज हमारे साथ है हमारे गेस्ट जो है हरी श्याम सुंदर, हु इज अ डायरेक्टर एंड फंड मैनेजर एट नावी म्यूचुअल फंड। हरी के बारे में जो है, मैंने उनके खुद का प्रोफाइल पढ़ा है। ही इज चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंट, ही इज फ्रॉम NIT Trichy, IIM Bangalore। और इस वीडियो के शुरू होने से पहले हम ये भी बात कर रहे थे कि कैसे हम दोनों क्विजिंग के बारे में म्यूचुअल लाइक रखते हैं। तो हरी, वेलकम ऑन द शो। वी आर रियली हैप्पी टू हैव यू हियर।
Thank you, Sameer. It's good to be here. Just one correction. I'm not a chartered accountant. I'm a CFA, Chartered Financial
Oh,
Accountant.
sorry. Just yeah, awesome.
That's
So इसी बात पर आज हम हमारे स्पेशल फंड के ऊपर एनएफओ एडिशन पे शुरू हो जाते हैं। सो हरी, just to start off, so whilst we've had a lot of funds previously which said that हाँ आप यूएस मार्केट में इन्वेस्ट कर सकते हैं, आप इस मार्केट में इन्वेस्ट कर सकते हैं, they've been around a specific bucket, like let's say tech or let's say thematic schemes. What Navi US Total Fund is attempting to do is to capture the entire US market. Can you just let us know कि ऐसा कैसे पॉसिबल हो रहा है?
right. Okay, Sameer. So I think the idea behind this is that the markets don't stay still. So every year, every decade, you should look at. जब हम प्लानिंग करते हैं तो फिर हम 10 साल के बारे में बात करते हैं, 20 साल के बारे में बात करते हैं, ना कि 1-2 साल के बारे में बात करते हैं। तो हम अगर 10 साल पहले जाते हैं या 20 साल पहले जाते हैं, तो तब टेक कंपनी जो होती थी वो IBM था। IBM was the fourth largest company in 2011 end. Today that has become maybe about the 75th largest company in the world. And आज के रेट में देखोगे तो among the top 10 companies US में जो है, 7 will be tech. You got the likes of Apple है उसमें, Microsoft, Alphabet जो Google है, Amazon, Tesla, ये सब कंपनीज पिछले 10 साल में बहुत बड़ी हो चुकी है। तो इसलिए tech has definitely taken over the world. The tech revolution in the last 10 years is here to stay. It is something which we have seen the rise of. So I think tech definitely is a relevant topic when we think about investing in US. But my point is that if you go 20 years back, the largest company was General Electric in the US stock markets. You had Citigroup, you had AIG. Citigroup and AIG almost went bust 7 years later in 2008. So what I'm trying to say here is that markets move, and the markets move with the trends, with the themes of the day. So when we are thinking about planning, creating a core portfolio for our longer term, रिटायरमेंट के बारे में बात कर रहे हैं या लॉन्ग टर्म फ्यूचर की बारे में बात कर रहे हैं, तब एक कोर पोर्टफोलियो होता है और उसके बाजू में थोड़े थीमेटिक्स डाल सकते हैं। पर कोर पोर्टफोलियो जो होती है, दैट कैन बी अ फंड व्हिच यू कैन कीप ओवर इयर्स विदाउट वरिंग कि अभी टेक खास रहेगा या बायोटेक खास रहेगा या मेटावर्स आ जाएगा या इलेक्ट्रिक व्हीकल्स आ जाएगा या रिन्यूएबल्स आ जाएगा। सो नए थीम्स आते रहेंगे, बट एक कोर पोर्टफोलियो बनाने के लिए एक कोर फंड की जरूरत होती है। एंड वो कोर फंड जो हम लेके आ रहे हैं वो उसे कहते हैं वैनगार्ड टोटल स्टॉक मार्केट फंड। So that is the fund into which Navi US Total Stock Market Fund of Fund will be investing. So this captures 4,100 stocks, more than 4,000 stocks, and it keeps getting rebalanced with the times of the day. So today, if you look at it, of course, all these names will be there. Apple will be there, Microsoft will be there, Alphabet will be there, Amazon will be there. But as the markets develop, as new trends emerge, as new companies become bigger, this fund will look to incorporate all of them. तो सभी जो नए नए ट्रेंड्स आ रहे हैं और छोटी छोटी कंपनीज जो है अभी शायद 1,000 रैंक पे हो गए हैं या उससे भी कम होंगे, तो वो बहुत जल्दी भी आई मीन टॉप 100 में पहुंच सकते हैं. तो वो टू कैप्चर दैट ग्रोथ you need a fund which will just capture all these themes, and that is what this particular fund looks to do. So this is called the total stock market fund, and it is a fund which is the most trusted fund, I would say, in America, because 1.4 trillion dollars as a series of fund. It is the largest fund series in America, and the reason for that is that people just think कि मुझे equity में exposure चाहिए, मुझे stock market खरीदनी है. जब बात करते हैं ना, मुझे लोग बोलते हैं कि मुझे stock market खरीदनी है. तो पर जब हम जाके खरीद लेते हैं तो फिर कुछ ही स्टॉक्स खरीद लेते हैं. तो ये जो है पूरी बास्केट है सभी स्टॉक्स के. तो दैट इज व्हाई इट हैज बिकम अ वेरी पॉपुलर प्रोडक्ट इन यूएस, एंड दैट इज नॉट बीन अवेलेबल इन इंडिया. इट इज नॉट अवेलेबल anywhere else. Navi has brought it, and we brought it at a very attractive price as well. So I think that is the attraction of investing into this particular product.
थैंक यू हरी, बहुत ही अच्छा इंट्रोडक्शन था. तो आई एम क्यूरियस, मैं थोड़ा इस पे और डिग डीपर करना चाहूंगा, बिकॉज द वैंगार्ड टोटल स्टॉक मार्केट इंडेक्स ये जो है, ये बेसिकली, इफ आई एम करेक्ट मी इफ आई एम रॉन्ग, दिस इज एन ईटीएफ इन द यूएस मार्केट. तो क्या कंपनीज है जो, जैसे आपने कुछ कंपनियों के नाम बताए, बट आई जस्ट वांट टू प्रोब अ लिटिल डीपर इनटू द ब्रेकअप ऑफ द कंपनीज फ्रॉम अ सेक्टर, और ये जो इंडिविजुअल कंपनीज जो है इनके बारे में थोड़ा सा एक जस्ट एज अ ब्रीफ प्राइमर हमारे दर्शकों को आप बता सकते.
So this fund, this ETF, which is what we are investing into, is it is benchmarked to the CRSP total US CRSP total market US total market index. So that is CRSP is linked to there's a business school there called the Chicago Booth School that which created the index which Vanguard uses to benchmark. So this index which is there, it is capturing, as I said, 4,100, more than 4,100 publicly traded companies, and this is almost 100% of the US investable equity market. So in terms of क्या companies है इसमें, as I said, top 25 जो holdings है, that will account for maybe 34-35% of the weightage of the fund, and maybe top 10 will be about 24%. So it has large caps about 72%. It has mid caps also. It has small caps also. So सब कुछ है इसमें. It is on full-fledged meal. एक थाली होती है जिसमें सब कुछ मिलता है, ऐसे ही समझ सकते हैं. तो इसमें, I mean, as I said, the top 25 has got names like Apple, Amazon, products which we use every day. So those are your Google Android phones to your if you're using Apple, or if you're using Microsoft in your computers, all of them are captured in this particular fund. Visa, Procter and Gamble, Pfizer, all of these are other names. Walt Disney. These are some of the top 25 names which are there in this fund. So it captures a lot of sectors. So if you look at sectoral, IT is 27% of 28% of the fund. So it's well diversified. So IT is about 28%. Healthcare is about 13%, consumer discretionary 12%. So you add up these, this is about 52%. But beyond this also, then there are a lot of other sectors also, financials, communications, industrial. So sab kuch, it's like one complete meal for your portfolio. And that's the way we would like to look at this particular fund.
अंडरस्टूड. एक बहुत ही अच्छा एनालॉजी आपने बताया थाली का, बिकॉज आई वाज आल्सो गोइंग थ्रू द ऑफर डॉक्यूमेंट, व्हिच आई हाईली रिकमेंड कि हमारे दर्शक भी अपने ऑफर डॉक्यूमेंट को देखें निवेश करने से पहले, क्योंकि ये सब एज दे से जोखिमों के अधीन है म्यूचुअल फंड इन्वेस्टमेंट्स. तो ऑफर डॉक्यूमेंट तो जरूर देखें. बट I was going through the offer document, and one of the things that caught my eye, which you just perfectly summed up as a thali. So जो है, the flavor of the season, you can say sometimes, is you're seeing an equal weighted fund slowly permeating into the Indian market. However, as I saw from the documents, and as we all know, the current US total stock markets fund is not investing equally, right? Like you said, there's a 70% towards large cap, around 30% is split between mid caps and small caps, and even in the sectoral, this one. Even अगर हम एक कंपनी का भी स्टैंड पॉइंट ले ले तो even in the 1 to 10, there's like, I think the highest you are offering is an 8% weightage for a one particular stock. Is there any particular rationale कि ऐसे क्यों weighted का हुआ है ये, instead of being an equal weighted fund by any chance?
Right. So, firstly, the largest stock is Apple, which is 5.7% at the end of
Oh,
December 31. And Microsoft is about 5.2%. So that is those are the largest companies. Now, why not have this as equal weighted? So I think if you look at how indexes were created, so go back to 1976 when the first index fund was created by Vanguard's founder, John Bogle. So I think there were various ways people considered about how to create an index and how to think about investing in these. So one of the reasons why market cap weighted indexes became popular was because you had the problem of replication. तो एक बात है कि कोई इंडेक्स प्रोवाइडर जो है बनाती है बोलती है बस ये ऐसे ऐसे इन्वेस्ट करना चाहिए इक्वल वेट्स पे लगा के यू नीड टू बी एबल टू इन्वेस्ट पर जब आप बात होती है रेप्लिकेशन की एक्चुअली गोइंग टू द मार्केट एंड बाइंग दो स्टॉक्स then it becomes a bit more complicated, and that is why market cap weighted indexes have become popular over the time in terms of because when you go to very small companies the liquidity starts drying up, and when you have a 1.4 trillion dollar kind of a fund, then the fund can sometimes become very hard to buy those. It'll become very hard for the fund to buy some of those very small funds at the equal weight level. So as a result, you have this fund which is market cap weighted rather than equal weighted. So I think that is the bit of a thing to consider when we are speaking about equal weight versus a market cap weighted. Equal weight is more readily, you'll see it in large cap kind of funds where the liquidity is less of a problem, and therefore you'll have equal weighted products for, say, in India mein you have Nifty 50 for example, as a, not Nifty 50 but you have a equal weighted Nifty 50 indexes which are available for investors to consider, and this will happen more in the large cap rather than in the small and mid cap where the buying becomes an issue with as the fund size goes.
yeah. हेलो, या सॉरी दर्शकों, छोटा सा माफी चाहूंगा, मेरा थोड़ा इंटरनेट आज स्लो चल रहा है. तो वेरी गुड, थैंक यू हरी फॉर दैट. दैट काइंड ऑफ एक्सप्लेन्स अ लॉट अबाउट इक्वल वेटेड वर्सेस मार्केट कैप वेटेड. तो दर्शकों से जरूर बताना चाहूंगा कि अगर आप इस वीडियो साइन अप करके, तो इस पार्ट को जरूर मैं हाईलाइट करके रखूंगा जो है कि इक्वल वेट वर्सेस मार्केट कैप वेटेड, क्योंकि काफी बहुत ही इंटरेस्टिंग एक perspective दिया है हरी ने यहाँ पे. तो moving on, one of the most popular concepts about getting on investing in international is about the dollar hedge, right? So can you just tell us about dollar hedging and how international investments help on this?
Sure. See, the way I think about this is that in our day-to-day lives, a lot of our costs are denominated in dollars. So if you look around you, you go to the petrol bunk, you fill up petrol. उसकी भाव जो है डॉलर में डिनोमिनेट होती है. जब डॉलर बढ़ती है तब हमारी वो पेट्रोल की प्राइस भी बढ़ती है. जस्ट लाइक दैट देयर आर लॉट मोर. ये तो ऑयल तेल के बारे में तो सब लोग जानते ही हैं, बट ऐसी बहुत कमोडिटीज हैं, बहुत खर्चे होते हैं जिनका कॉस्ट भी डॉलर में गिना जाता है. जैसे इवन मेनी ऑफ द एग्रीकल्चर कमोडिटीज जो होते हैं उनका लिंकेज जो है ग्लोबल मार्केट्स एंड ग्लोबल प्राइसेस से जुड़ा जाता है. सो इवन स्टील का भाव जो है डॉलर पर टन पे बिका जाता है इंटरनेशनल मार्केट्स में. तो a lot of your costs, without you even knowing it, is in dollars. So I think that some of your money also should be put into something which is earning in dollars, so that your costs, as many years go by, if the dollar becomes more expensive versus the rupee, then you are protected against that factor for your portfolio. So that is what is referred to as the dollar hedge for your portfolio. So when you invest in the Navi US Total Stock Market Fund of Fund, you are putting your money into something which is in the denominated in the dollars, which is you're buying dollar priced stocks, and when you look to sell it, then you're converting that dollar price stocks into rupees. So you're protected from the movement of the dollar, and that is what is a very powerful thing for your portfolio, and that protects you in the longer run from the dollar movement versus the rupee. If you look at over the last 10 years, the dollar to the rupee has moved from about 49 to the dollar to about 75 today. So over time, this is slowly, 3% a year. It has eaten away at some of your costs, at some of whatever returns you're getting also. So this benefit can come if you look to invest in something which is dollar denominated, which is a fund like what we are offering.
Absolutely, Hari. Thank you for that. There is an audience question that has come in. I'm just gonna. This is from Ashish Goyal के तरफ से ये question. मैं थोड़ा इसको paraphrase कर दूंगा. So essentially, the question asks, how is the Navi US Total Fund of Fund different from existing funds today? So I think this is a point that you did touch upon at the very start of the video, but if you could just go back to that and answer, that will be great.
Sure. So I think the funds which are available in the market today are two types. One is typically there are three types. Let's say put it three types. One is an active fund where the funds are looking to invest in active funds which are based in the US. Now, many of these funds have done well, but you are taking a bet on whether the fund manager will be able to continue their performance and whether they'll be able to continue to deliver their performance. In US, over the last decade and maybe a bit more than that time, we have seen passive funds move to become almost half of the invested assets by retail players. So more than half of the mutual funds and similar assets are now passive. And the reason for that is that these passive funds have beaten the active funds. Now, if you are, having said that, there's another 50% or a bit less than that, which is still actively denominated. If you are able to identify a fund manager, if you are able to get somebody who gives you a good advice about which fund managers to put your money in, then great. I mean, you can go and look at some of these funds. But most of us find that difficult to do. And we don't know. I mean, and there's fund management risk. There's a fund manager risk associated with that. So many of us sitting here find it hard to do. So you look at passive funds. Now, in terms of passive funds, currently in the market, there are two types. Mostly two types. One is a Nasdaq or a tech heavy, which is what we had spoken about earlier, or an S&P 500 kind of a fund. So the Nasdaq, the index tends to be heavy on tech. It's about 55%, I think, is tech kind of companies. And if I look at how much of the overall market does it cover, Nasdaq covers about 37% of the total fund, so of the total investable universe. So you are getting 37% of all the trends in the American market, in the American corporate world, which is being captured by the Nasdaq index. If you look at that is a particular call, and we have said that tech is something which definitely is which is a trend, which is a theme, which is doing very well. Without doubt, I think it has changed our lives. Many of these companies have been doing very well, but for something which you are looking as a core part of a portfolio, you want something more diversified. which comes to the next kind of a product which is there in the market today, which is an S&P 500 based product. Now, an S&P 500 product is well diversified. It covers about 80% of the overall investable universe. What we are bringing is the total stock market, which is 100% of the uh, total investable equity markets. S&P 500 is also more large cap based and with a bit of flavor of mid caps. It does not have any small caps at all. So, in a broad based economic recovery, when the wider economy starts doing well, then you start normally seeing the smaller mid caps do well, and that is true of India, and that is true of US also. The Vanguard total stock market has got 70%, 72% large cap, 20% mid cap, and you have the 8% flavor of small cap as well. So, in a broader economic recovery, I think that this product, the Navi US Total Stock Market Fund of Fund, will help you capture that dynamic as well. Plus, I think if you look at our expense ratio, which is something which we haven't maybe specified so far, we haven't spoken about in this conversation so far, we are offering it at 6 basis points, 0.06% as the expense ratio. If you add what Vanguard also charges, that's 3 basis points or 0.03%. So total cost for an investor will be 0.09%. There is no other fund in the market which is this cheap, this inexpensively priced. And the any of the extra costs eventually land up on you. So I think that's what makes this such a compelling proposition for any investor looking at investing in the US markets.
Got it, Hari. This is absolutely on point for my next question, which also is an audience question by Balaji. I'll kind of bundle all of this together. So, who or what is the ideal investor profile for this fund? And let's say if they decide to do invest, what percentage of their investment should be in this fund, or how do they kind of go about diversifying their own assets? Can you just throw some light on this?
Sure, sure. So one way to look at it is to look at the globe in terms of the world perspective itself. The stock market, stock exchanges across the world, you look at them, and what's the market capitalization of that? Out of that, India is just 2 to 3% of the total world stock market capitalization. US is 43%. So if you look to invest in the US markets, you are capturing a large portion of the remaining part of the world. So in one shot, you're able to get exposure to about 43% of the rest of the world and a lot of the trends which are happening there. Um, why is that important? I think it's because in the end, some of our consumption also reflects that. If you in the last 10 years or maybe more than that, we have been consuming a lot of these products, but we have not been investing in them. So well, putting our money into consuming the products rather than making money from how popular these products have become. And many of these have come from US, which has been the market which has grown over not just the last decade, 2 decades, over the last 100 years. There are studies to show that this is a market which has continued to do well over many years. So I think that's where I think that you need to have some exposure outside just the Indian markets. I'm not saying you should take all your money today and put it into the US markets. Not at all. Not at all. You are in India. You should capture the trends which are happening in India. You should definitely have the bulk of your equity investments as well in Indian markets. But you should look at diversifying whatever equity portion you have outside as well. Now, how much you want to have outside is something which it's a call which I would say requires a lot more discussion with the financial advisor or depending on your risk appetite as well. But a reasonable portion should be there for international investment as well. And towards that, I would say that this US market is one definite part which you should consider. And within that, this product is ideally suited for that. You can look to add this in an SIP because there's a lot of volatility going on. We haven't spoken about the current volatility and which is happening in the markets. And there's always a question, near-term question about is this a correct time to invest in the US stock market? And the answer to that is always even if it's not the correct time, you can always time it over a period of time. You can use an SIP approach. You can look to invest it over a period of time and keep putting a bit of your money into this product. SIP is available for this particular product as well. And I would encourage investors to consider that option as well.
Thank you, Hari. But before I move to the next question, very important disclaimer. Please do not consider what Hari or me are telling you in this video as investment advice. And even when you're going ahead and investing in the mutual funds, I'd highly recommend you to read the offer documents. The offer document is available on Navi's websites. It is also available on the Finity app. The link is in the description, by the way. So I highly recommend you to do your own judgment and yes, talk to your own financial advisor and come to a decision before you take any next steps in any fund. Having said that, though, Hari, this brings me to a very interesting juncture, and we are almost at the half an hour mark for the video. If you've noticed, the recent ruling from SEBI that most fund houses have hit the 7 billion cap, thereby fresh investments into the US markets or international markets for a temporary period have been halted. And I just want to just probe here and ask you, why was this number 7 billion to begin with? I believe this ruling was in the early 2000s, correct me if I'm wrong. And what is going to shape up for an average investor who wants to diversify their portfolio and look at avenues that are not India in the immediate future? Yeah.
Sure. So I think this particular limit, yes, it is close to being, it was close to being breached a few months back, and that's when I think SEBI has put a limit, has intimated all the mutual fund houses that there is, it looks like this limit is going to be breached, and therefore we need to consider pausing it till discussions happen with the Reserve Bank of India to expand the limit. So this is a pause. And whether it will happen and how fast it will happen is something which I don't know. I don't know, and it should get lifted theoretically, and arguably it should, and all representations are on, I'm sure, for that. But we don't know when that will happen. But what along with that $7 billion, there's a separate $1 billion for funds investing in ETFs outside the country as well. And that is where this product comes under. It falls under the investment into the ETF. So as we said that this fund, the Navi US Total Stock Market Fund, is looking to invest in a Vanguard Total Stock Market ETF. So since you're investing into ETF, there's a separate category which has not yet been breached. And so we do not fall under that. That's the reason why we're able to go ahead and offer this a new fund offer. And this will remain open for now, as long as this $1 billion is not breached, and that's not close to being breached sometime anytime soon.
Absolutely. This is still an NFO, so we are still hopefully a while away from this one. So thank you so much, Hari, for doing this session. But before we actually let you go, I just दर्शकों के लिए कुछ मैंडेटरी डिटेल्स है. नावी यूएस टोटल स्टॉक मार्केट फंड, इस फंड के बारे में हमने पिछले आधे घंटे तक वार्तालाप किया है. ये फंड एक एनएफओ है. इसका मतलब है कि ये अभी न्यू फंड ऑफर है, इनिशियल स्टेजेस में है. लास्ट डेट ऑफ सब्सक्रिप्शन जो है वो 18 फरवरी 2022, यहाँ यानी कि आज से एक हफ्ते बाद अगले फ्राइडे तक आप इसको सब्सक्राइब कर सकते हैं. सबसे इंपॉर्टेंट बात यह है कि जैसे हरी ने बताया, लो कॉस्ट, लो टोटल एक्सपेंस रेशियो, मिनिमम एसआईपी अमाउंट जो है 500 रुपीज है, इंडियन रुपीज है, विच इज essentially, as you mentioned, the consumption of 2 American products, which is 2 cups of Starbucks coffee, if I may say. But that is the minimum amount that is there. And ये फंड 18 तारीख तक आप सब्सक्राइब कर सकते हैं. उसके बाद से ये मार्केट में आ जाएगा और आप इसे मार्केट से खरीद सकते हैं. एनएफओ पीरियड अभी चल रहा है फिनिटी ऐप पे. ऐप लिंक जो है, आप वहां से ऐप डाउनलोड करके इस फंड में डायरेक्टली इन्वेस्ट कर सकते हैं. 500 रुपए का छोटा सा राशि है जो आप एसआईपी में क्रिएट कर सकते हैं. तो एंड वीडियो के खत्म होने के बाद हम इस फंड का जो मैंडेटरी डॉक्यूमेंट्स है, डिस्क्लोजर्स है, डिस्क्रिप्शन में डाल देंगे हमारी टीम से. इसका रिस्कोमीटर भी आ जाएगा. तो आप निवेश करने से पहले जांच पड़ताल जरूर करें. म्यूचुअल फंड इन्वेस्टमेंट्स जोखिमों के अधीन है और ये तो यूएस मार्केट्स में है, तो आप थोड़ी बहुत आप अगर इसके बारे में जांच कर ले तो बहुत अच्छा रहेगा। तो थैंक यू सो मच हरी, यू स्पेंड हाफ एन आवर ऑफ योर टाइम विद अस टेलिंग अबाउट दिस न्यू फंड। सो how does it feel? What do you want to tell to our viewers before we let you go?
Right. So I think, firstly, what I would just like to leave is, again, these are equity products, and equity products you need to look at a 5 to 10 year horizon. So definitely, जब आप सोच रहे हैं इसके बारे में, लॉन्ग टर्म के बारे में सोच लीजिए. इसका taxation is also linked to a long term. It is linked to the debt taxation, which is true of international as well. And so I think this is one simple, low cost solution to investing in the US markets. And that is the reason I would urge you to look at it and consider it for your single exposure to the US stock markets.
थैंक यू सो मच हरी। और जैसे मैं हमारे सभी दर्शकों को पता ही रहेगा, मैं जैसे प्रॉमिस करता हूँ हरी वापस आएंगे अगले कहीं फ्यूचर में एक फिनिटी इन्वेस्टोलॉजी एडिशन में। हमारे काफी सारे, सो हरी फॉर यू वी हैव हैड रिपीट गेस्ट ऑन Investology NFO editions and Investology aside. So we will look forward to hosting you sometime soon. तो अगर आप हरी के बारे में सुनना चाहते हैं, और नावी म्यूचुअल फंड जो है वो हमारे साथ आ चुके हैं, पिछले वीडियोस को भी आप अगर देखना चाहते हैं तो हमारे चैनल को जरूर सब्सक्राइब करिए, चैनल में अवेलेबल है। एनएफओ खुला है तो ऐप भी डाउनलोड कर ले, ऐप में एनएफओ इजी अवेलेबल है। थैंक यू सो मच हरी, इट वाज अ प्लेजर होस्टिंग यू। सी यू सून। हमारे दर्शकों को भी नमस्कार। थैंक यू, हैव अ गुड फेस्टिवल। बाय
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
बाय।